My hands trembled as I watched the video for the 100th time. There was my sister Meredith's new husband spitting directly onto our mother's face at their reception. The footage had already hit 2 million views in just 12 hours. The worst part, I wasn't even invited to witness this nightmare firsthand. While I was sitting at home wondering why my own sister excluded me from her special day strangers on social media, we're watching my family implode in real time. The comments were brutal, but they were asking the same question. What kind of monster does this to his new mother-in-law? But before I dive into this mess, let me know where you are watching from. If this family drama already has you hooked, smash that like button and subscribe, because this revenge story gets so much wilder than you could imagine. My name is Autumn Blackwell, and I thought I knew my family. Growing up in suburban Chicago, Meredith and I were inseparable despite our 3-year age gap. She was the golden child student council president, homecoming queen, the daughter who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I was the artistic one, the dreamer who chose community college over Northwestern, much to Dad's disappointment. The wedding invitation saga started 6 months ago. Mom called me voice shaking to tell me that Meredith was engaged to Trevor Walsh, a pharmaceutical sales rep she had been dating for 8 months. The engagement itself was not shocking. Meredith always rushed into things. What was shocking was learning about it through Mom instead of directly from my sister. She wants a small, intimate ceremony, Mom explained, but something in her tone felt off. Just immediate family and very close friends. When the save the dates went out, I did not receive one. I assumed it was a mistake and texted Meredith directly. Her response was colder than a Chicago winter. Autumn, we decided to keep it really small. I hope you understand. I did not understand. Neither did our cousin Jake, our Aunt Linda, or several of Meredith's longtime friends who also got the cold shoulder. The guest list seemed arbitrarily curated, excluding people who had been important parts of Meredith's life for years. The real blow came when I discovered through Instagram that Trevor's entire extended family was invited, including cousins he barely knew. His groomsmen included guys he had met at work just months before. Meanwhile, I, her only sister, was persona non grata. Dad tried to smooth things over, suggesting that maybe Meredith was stressed about wedding planning. "You know how she gets when she is overwhelmed," he said. But this felt different. This felt personal. The wedding took place 3 weeks ago at an upscale venue in downtown Chicago. While I spent that Saturday reorganizing my art studio and trying not to feel sorry for myself, 150 guests celebrated my sister's union. I saw the professional photos on Facebook. Meredith looked radiant in her designer gown, surrounded by Trevor's family and their mutual friends. What I did not see in those carefully curated photos was what happened during the reception. That bombshell dropped yesterday when a guest uploaded raw footage to TikTok with the caption, "When you witness a psycho groom assault the bride's mom at a wedding." The video showed Trevor drunk and belligerent getting into a heated argument with Mom near the dessert table. Audio was hard to make out over the band, but body language told the story. Mom appeared to be trying to calm him down, her hands raised in a peacekeeping gesture. Trevor was pointing aggressively, his face twisted with rage. Then it happened. In full view of multiple guests and their smartphones, Trevor hawked up a mouthful of saliva and spit it directly onto Mom's face. The sound of collective gasps from onlookers was audible even over the music. Mom stood there shocked and humiliated as spit dripped down her cheek onto her beautiful navy dress. The same dress she had spent weeks shopping for because she wanted to look perfect for her daughter's special day. The video showed Dad rushing over furious while Meredith appeared frozen in horror. Other guests backed away, clearly uncomfortable. Some woman, presumably Trevor's relative, could be heard laughing in the background and saying something about Mom deserving it. The TikTok exploded overnight. Comments poured in from strangers expressing outrage, disgust, and sympathy for Mom. People were sharing their own stories of toxic in-laws and family wedding disasters. The video had been screen recorded and reposted across multiple platforms, making it impossible to contain. But here is where it gets even more twisted. I learned all of this not from my family, but from a text from my college roommate who recognized Mom in the viral video. The silence from my family was deafening. While the internet exploded with outrage over Trevor's disgusting behavior, nobody from my immediate family reached out to me. Not Mom, not Dad, and certainly not Meredith. I spent 2 days watching the video spread across social media, reading hundreds of comments from strangers defending my mother while my own family kept me in the dark. Finally, I could not take it anymore. I drove to my parents' house unannounced, using my spare key to let myself in. I found Mom sitting at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas at 2 in the afternoon, staring at her phone with red, swollen eyes. "Mom," I said softly, and she looked up with a startled expression as if she had seen a ghost. "Autumn, honey, what are you doing here?" Her voice was hoarse, probably from crying. "I saw the video, Mom. The whole world saw the video. Why did not anybody tell me what happened?" She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. Between gasps, the whole story came tumbling out. The wedding had been a disaster from the start. Trevor had been drinking heavily since the morning, becoming increasingly aggressive as the day went on. During the ceremony, he had made several inappropriate comments under his breath about Mom's appearance and Dad's cheap suit. The argument captured on video started when Mom politely asked Trevor to moderate his drinking because he was making other guests uncomfortable. His response was to launch into a profanity-laced tirade about how she was an uptight woman who had raised a controlling daughter. When Mom tried to walk away, he grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. "That is when I told him to take his hands off me," Mom whispered. "And he looked me right in the eye and spit on me like I was nothing, like I was trash." The aftermath was chaos. Dad had to be physically restrained from attacking Trevor. Several guests left immediately. Meredith spent the rest of her reception locked in the bridal suite crying. But here is the part that made my blood boil. Trevor's family rallied around him, claiming Mom had been asking for it by interfering in their family business. "Where is Meredith now?" I asked. Mom's expression darkened. "She is staying with Trevor's parents. She says she needs space to think, but she has not spoken to us since that night. She blames us for ruining her wedding." "She blames you. He spit on you." Trevor convinced her that I provoked him. He told her I was trying to control their relationship and embarrass him in front of his family. Meredith believes him, Autumn. She actually believes that I deserved what happened. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. My sister, who I had protected from playground bullies and helped with homework and celebrated every achievement with, had chosen to side with a man who publicly humiliated our mother. She had not just excluded me from her wedding, she had excluded me from her life to make room for someone who treated our family like garbage. That night I made a decision. If my family wanted to handle this quietly and hope it would blow over, that was their choice. But I was not going to let Trevor Walsh get away with what he did. The internet had already started the conversation, but they did not have the full story. They did not know about the bruises on Mom's arm, or the way Trevor's family had laughed about the assault, or how Meredith had abandoned her own parents to protect her abuser husband. I spent hours that night documenting everything. Screenshots of the original video from multiple angles, photos of Mom's bruises, text message conversations where Meredith had gradually become colder and more distant over the past year, clearly influenced by Trevor's manipulation. I also did some digging into Trevor's background and discovered this was not his first violent outburst. His ex-girlfriend had filed a restraining order against him 2 years ago for threatening behavior. The next morning, I created a detailed post on Reddit's relationship advice forum, laying out the entire situation. I kept everyone anonymous, but provided enough context for people to understand the gravity of what had happened. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of comments poured in from people sharing similar stories, offering advice and expressing outrage on my family's behalf. But the real bombshell came when someone in the comments recognized details from my story and connected it to the viral video. Within hours, my Reddit post was being shared across Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. The original video now had context, and public opinion shifted from general disgust to targeted fury at Trevor specifically. Local news stations started reaching out. A reporter from the Chicago Tribune wanted to interview Mom about domestic violence at weddings. The story was spiraling beyond anything I had anticipated, but for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like we were taking back control of the narrative. Trevor's employer, a major pharmaceutical company, became aware of the situation when employees started sharing the video in company chat groups. His professional reputation was crumbling as fast as his personal one. People were leaving negative reviews on his LinkedIn profile and calling his office to complain about his behavior. Meanwhile, Meredith finally broke her silence, not to apologize or check on Mom's well-being, but to post a long, rambling statement on Facebook defending Trevor and blaming our family for making their private business public. She claimed we were jealous of her happiness and trying to sabotage her marriage. The post was so tone-deaf and cruel that even some of her friends pushed back in the comments. That is when I realized this was bigger than just one horrible moment at a wedding. This was about power control, and a man who had successfully isolated my sister from everyone who truly cared about her. Trevor had not just spit on Mom, he had declared war on our entire family, and Meredith was too manipulated to see it. The story exploded beyond anything I could have imagined. Within 72 hours of my Reddit post going viral, we had allies emerging from the most unexpected places. Trevor's ex-girlfriend, Sarah Martinez, reached out to me directly through social media after recognizing the pattern of behavior described in my post. "I have been waiting 2 years for someone else to see who he really is," Sarah wrote in her message. "I have documented evidence of his abuse, and I want to help your family." Sarah turned out to be a crucial ally. She was a paralegal with extensive documentation of Trevor's previous violent behavior. She had photos of bruises he had given her, text messages where he threatened her family, and recordings of voicemails where he screamed profanities and made disturbing threats. Most importantly, she had security footage from her apartment complex showing Trevor vandalizing her car after she broke up with him. "He has a pattern," Sarah explained during our phone call. "He isolates women from their support systems, then escalates the abuse gradually. Your sister is in serious danger, and she probably does not even realize it yet." We started building a comprehensive case. Sarah connected me with Maria Santos, a domestic violence advocate who specialized in cases involving financial and emotional abuse. Maria immediately recognized the signs in Trevor's behavior and offered to help us document everything properly. "Spitting is considered assault in Illinois," Maria explained. "And the fact that he did it in front of witnesses while being recorded actually works in our favor. But we need to be strategic about how we proceed." Our growing network of allies included some surprising additions. James Morrison, a detective in the Chicago Police Department, was a friend of Dad's from high school, who had seen the video circulating among his colleagues. He reached out unofficially to let us know that several people had filed reports about the incident, and that Trevor was now on the department's radar. "I cannot get involved officially," James explained, "but I can tell you that domestic violence cases often escalate after public humiliation. Your family needs to be careful, and your sister needs to know that she has options." The most unexpected ally was Rebecca Walsh, Trevor's own cousin, who contacted me through a burner social media account. Rebecca revealed that Trevor's family had a long history of covering up his violent behavior, and that several female relatives had been victims of his aggression over the years. His grandmother actually disowned him after he pushed his teenage cousin down the stairs 3 years ago. Rebecca told me during a secret meeting at a coffee shop downtown. But the family closes ranks whenever anyone tries to hold him accountable. "They did the same thing at your sister's wedding. They made it seem like your mom was the problem." Rebecca provided insider information that was invaluable. She told us that Trevor's parents were panicking about the negative publicity affecting their social standing in their wealthy suburb. His father, who owned several local businesses, was reportedly furious about potential damage to the family's reputation. "They are talking about suing your family for defamation," Rebecca warned. "Trevor's father thinks he can intimidate you into backing down." This information allowed us to prepare for the legal battles ahead. Sarah connected us with her former boss, attorney Lisa Park, who specialized in defamation defense and domestic violence cases. Lisa agreed to represent our family pro bono after reviewing the evidence we had gathered. "They have no case," Lisa assured us. "Truth is an absolute defense against defamation claims. Everything you have shared is documented fact, witnessed by multiple people and recorded on video. If they want to sue, let them try." Our alliance network expanded to include several of Meredith's former friends, who had been gradually pushed out of her life over the past year. Each conversation revealed more pieces of the puzzle. Trevor had systematically isolated Meredith from anyone who questioned their relationship or expressed concerns about his behavior. Jessica Williams. Meredith's former best friend since high school provided the most heartbreaking insight. She used to call me crying after their fights, but every time I suggested she deserved better treatment, she would get defensive and accuse me of being jealous. Eventually, she stopped calling altogether. I tried to reach out after seeing the video, but she blocked my number. The alliance was not just about building a case against Trevor, it was about creating a safety net for Meredith when she was ready to escape. Maria helped us understand that victims of domestic violence often need multiple attempts before they successfully leave their abusers. "Your sister is going to need you," Maria said. "But she is going to have to make the choice to accept help. All we can do is make sure the support system is ready when she realizes she needs it." Meanwhile, the public pressure on Trevor was intensifying. His employer launched an internal investigation after dozens of complaints from colleagues and clients who had seen the video. Local businesses started refusing his patronage. His gym revoked his membership after other members complained about feeling unsafe around him. The social media campaign had taken on a life of its own. People were sharing stories of their own experiences with family wedding drama and domestic violence. Support groups were using Trevor's behavior as an example of red flag warning signs. The hashtag #Spitgate was trending and not in Trevor's favor. But the most significant development came when Channel 7 News decided to do a feature story on domestic violence at weddings using our situation as the centerpiece. They interviewed moms Sarah and Maria, creating a powerful segment about recognizing and responding to abuse. The night before the story aired, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Meredith. "Autumn, we need to talk." My heart pounded as I heard my sister's voice for the first time in weeks. "Meredith, are you okay? Where are you?" "I am at home. Trevor is at work. Can you come over? Please, Autumn, I need to see you." Against my better judgment and Maria's advice about meeting with abuse victims in potentially unsafe locations, I drove to the apartment Meredith shared with Trevor. She looked terrible thin, pale with dark circles under her eyes. The confident, radiant bride from the wedding photos had been replaced by someone who looked haunted and defeated. "I saw the news story," she said quietly as we sat on her couch. "I had no idea it had gotten so big." For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt hopeful. Maybe she was finally seeing Trevor for who he really was. Maybe our alliance and the public pressure had broken through his manipulation. "Meredith, we have been so worried about you. Mom just wants you to be safe. We all do." She nodded, tears flowing freely. "I know Trevor has problems. The drinking, the anger. It has gotten worse since the wedding. He blames me for not controlling the family better. He says it is my fault that Mom provoked him. He spit on our mother. There is no excuse for that." "I know," she whispered. "I know it was wrong. I have been trying to figure out how to fix this, how to make it right with everyone." This felt like the breakthrough we had been hoping for. I spent 2 hours listening to Meredith describe the escalating abuse she had endured since the wedding. Trevor had become increasingly controlling, monitoring her phone calls, isolating her from friends, and exploding into rage whenever she expressed any independence. "He threw a plate at me last week," she admitted. "It missed, but it shattered against the wall. I had to clean up the pieces while he screamed about how I was turning his family against him." I wanted to grab her and drive straight to Mom and Dad's house, but I knew I had to be careful. Maria had warned me that pushing too hard could cause victims to retreat back into denial and isolation. "What do you want to do, Meredith?" "We have resources available to help you leave safely." She looked up with something that might have been hope. "You would help me, even after everything I did to you, excluding you from the wedding, defending Trevor when he hurt Mom. You are my sister. Of course I would help you." We made plans for her to gradually move her belongings to our parents' house while Trevor was at work. I connected her with Maria and explained the safety protocols we had learned from Sarah's experience. It felt like we were finally winning. That feeling lasted exactly 18 hours. The next evening, I received a devastating call from Detective Morrison. "Autumn, I need you to know that your sister filed a police report this afternoon. She is claiming that you and your alliance have been harassing and threatening her family." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "She asked me to help her leave Trevor. According to her statement, you pressured her to lie about domestic violence and coordinated a social media campaign to destroy her husband's reputation. She claims you manipulated her during an emotional moment yesterday and that she never intended to leave her marriage." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "James, that is not what happened. She came to me. She told me about the abuse." "I believe you, but officially I have to treat this as a harassment complaint. Trevor's family has also hired a high-profile attorney who is threatening to sue everyone involved in what they are calling a malicious defamation campaign." The betrayal was complete and devastating. Not only had Meredith gone back to Trevor, but she had actively turned against our entire support network. Within hours, she had given Trevor's attorney detailed information about our alliance, including the names and contact information of everyone who had helped us. Rebecca, Trevor's cousin, who had risked family relationships to help us, was immediately cut off from family events and threatened with legal action for violating privacy. Sarah received threatening messages from Trevor's relatives accusing her of manipulating the situation for attention. Maria's domestic violence organization was flooded with fake negative reviews, claiming they encouraged women to fabricate abuse allegations. The most painful betrayal came in the form of a joint statement that Meredith and Trevor released to local media. In it, Meredith claimed that our family had always been jealous of her success and happiness, and that we had orchestrated the entire scandal to destroy her marriage. She described our intervention attempts as harassment and emotional manipulation. "My family has a history of drama and attention-seeking behavior," the statement read. "I deeply regret that their jealousy and need for social media fame has hurt my husband, who is a good man trying to build a life with me." Trevor appeared alongside her in a follow-up television interview, playing the role of the wounded husband, whose privacy had been violated by vindictive in-laws. He claimed that the wedding incident had been blown out of proportion, and that Mom had been drinking and became confrontational with him. "I reacted poorly to her aggression," he said with practiced remorse. "I should have walked away instead of engaging with someone who was clearly trying to provoke a scene. I have apologized privately to my wife's family, but they chose to make this a public spectacle instead of accepting my attempt to make things right." The interview was masterfully manipulative. Trevor came across as reasonable and remorseful while painting our family as vindictive and unstable. Meredith sat beside him, nodding supportively, and occasionally reaching over to squeeze his hand in a show of solidarity. The public opinion that had been so strongly in our favor began to shift. Comments on social media started questioning whether we had overreacted to what might have been an isolated incident between drunk relatives at a wedding. Some people suggested that Mom had provoked the confrontation and that we were using domestic violence resources inappropriately. Our carefully built alliance began to crumble under legal pressure and public scrutiny. Several people who had supported us privately distanced themselves publicly to avoid being named in potential lawsuits. The narrative we had worked so hard to establish was being systematically dismantled by professional reputation management and legal intimidation. Lisa, our attorney, tried to reassure us that we still had strong documentation of the facts, but the damage to our credibility was significant. "This is a common tactic," she explained. "Abusers often convince their victims to participate in discrediting anyone who tries to help. It makes future intervention attempts much more difficult." The worst part was knowing that Meredith was now more isolated than ever. By turning against everyone who had tried to help her, she had eliminated her own escape routes. Trevor had successfully convinced her that her family and friends were the real threat to her safety and happiness. That night, as I watched my sister defend her abuser on television while attacking everyone who loved her, I realized that our first approach had failed completely. But this was not over. If Meredith wanted to believe that Trevor was the victim and we were the villains, fine. But the evidence did not disappear just because she decided to ignore it. And Trevor's pattern of behavior was not going to change just because he had temporarily won this battle. The systematic destruction of our credibility might have been devastating, but it also revealed something crucial about Trevor's operation. He was not just an impulsive abuser. He was a calculated predator with resources and connections that went far beyond what we had initially understood. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amanda Foster, a forensic psychologist who had been following the case through professional networks, reached out to me with information that changed everything. She had been contacted by 3 other women who recognized Trevor's behavior patterns from the viral video and news coverage. "This is not just domestic violence," Dr. Foster explained during our confidential meeting. "This is systematic predatory behavior with a clear financial motive. I think your brother-in-law is running a more sophisticated operation than anyone realizes." The 3 women Dr. Foster had connected with were all professionals in their 30s who had dated Trevor over the past 5 years. Each relationship had followed an identical pattern: intense courtship, rapid commitment, gradual isolation from family and friends, then financial exploitation followed by discarding when the woman either ran out of resources or became too difficult to control. Jennifer Walsh, no relation despite the shared surname, was a nurse who had dated Trevor for 6 months 2 years ago. "He convinced me to take out a personal loan to invest in his pharmaceutical consulting business," she told us. $25,000 that I am still paying off. When I started asking questions about returns on my investment, he became violent and threatening. Caroline Stevens had a similar story, but with an even more disturbing twist. "He did not just take my money. He accessed my patient database at the medical practice where I work and stole confidential information. I think he was selling medical records to insurance fraud networks." The third woman, Patricia Kim, revealed the most shocking information. Trevor is not even his real name. His legal name is Travis Walsh, and he has been using multiple identities to run relationship scams across the Midwest. I hired a private investigator after he disappeared with my savings, and we discovered at least 4 other identities he uses regularly. Dr. Foster helped us understand that we were dealing with someone far more dangerous than a typical domestic abuser. "This is organized criminal activity," she explained. "The marriage to your sister was not about love or even control. It was about accessing a new network of potential victims and establishing a more permanent base of operations." The private investigator Patricia had hired David Chen, and yes, I realize the irony of that name, given our family's instructions, agreed to work with our expanded alliance. His research revealed a complex web of financial fraud, identity theft, and systematic exploitation spanning multiple states. "Trevor or Travis has been perfecting this operation for years," David explained. "He targets educated women with good credit and family connections. The wedding video going viral actually disrupted his normal pattern, which is why he reacted so aggressively to regain control of the narrative." The evidence David uncovered was staggering. bank records showing suspicious transfers from accounts linked to Trevor's previous girlfriends. Credit applications filed under slightly altered versions of these women's identities. Business licenses for companies that existed only on paper but had been used to secure loans and government contracts. Most damaging of all was the discovery that Trevor had already started exploiting Meredith financially. He had convinced her to add his name to her savings account, take out a second mortgage on her condo, and apply for multiple credit cards that he was using for cash advances. "Your sister has accumulated over $80,000 in debt since the wedding," David revealed. "She probably does not even know the full extent of it yet, because he has been intercepting her financial statements and handling all the paperwork." We now understood why Trevor had been so desperate to discredit our family and isolate Meredith from her support system. We had not just been threatening his marriage, we had been threatening his entire criminal operation. Dr. Foster connected us with FBI agent Rachel Martinez, who specialized in financial fraud cases involving domestic violence. Agent Martinez had been tracking similar patterns of behavior across multiple states and was very interested in our documentation. "What you have uncovered fits a profile we have been building for organized relationship fraud networks," Agent Martinez explained. "These operations are becoming more sophisticated using psychological manipulation techniques combined with financial exploitation to maximize profits while minimizing legal risk." The federal investigation moved quickly once Agent Martinez had access to our evidence. Bank records were subpoenaed. Previous victims were interviewed officially. Trevor's multiple identities and fraudulent business activities were traced across state lines, elevating the case to federal jurisdiction. But the most powerful piece of evidence came from an unexpected source: security cameras from the wedding venue that had captured footage the viral video had missed. This additional footage showed Trevor not only spitting on Mom, but also physically shoving her when she tried to walk away, and then bragging to his groomsmen about putting the old woman in her place. The venue's security director, Michael Torres, had been reluctant to release the footage initially, but he changed his mind after learning about the federal investigation. "I have daughters," he explained simply. "If someone did that to my wife's mother, I would want every piece of evidence available." This new footage was devastating to Trevor's carefully constructed narrative. There was no way to claim self-defense or provocation when the video clearly showed him initiating and escalating the physical confrontation. His own words captured on high-quality audio revealed his true character in a way that could not be manipulated or recontextualized. Agent Martinez used this evidence to secure federal warrants for Trevor's arrest on charges of wire fraud, identity theft, and racketeering. The investigation had expanded to include his entire network of accomplices, including family members who had been helping to launder money and intimidate victims. "We are going to bring down this entire operation," Agent Martinez assured us. "But I need you to understand that your sister is likely to be arrested as well, at least initially. From a legal perspective, she appears to be a co-conspirator, even if she was actually a victim." The night before the arrests were scheduled to take place, I got another call from Meredith. This time her voice was desperate and terrified. "Autumn, something is wrong. Trevor has been acting strange all day. He cleared out our joint bank account and told me we need to leave town immediately for a business opportunity. But I found documents in his car. I think he has been stealing from me." "Where are you now?" "I am locked in our bedroom. He is packing frantically and he keeps talking on the phone about needing to disappear for a while." "I am scared, Autumn. I think you were right about everything." The federal raid happened at dawn. Agent Martinez and her team arrested Trevor at O'Hare Airport as he attempted to board a flight to Mexico using fraudulent identification documents. In his possession were over $50,000 in cash, multiple fake IDs, and detailed financial records showing the scope of his criminal operation. Meredith was taken into custody as well, but her cooperation with investigators and the evidence we had gathered about her being a victim of manipulation led to charges being dropped in exchange for her testimony against Trevor and his network. The reunion with my sister was emotionally devastating and healing at the same time. She had lost weight, her confidence was shattered, and she was facing financial ruin, but she was alive and free from Trevor's control. "I am so sorry," she sobbed in Mom's arms at the police station. "I knew something was wrong, but I convinced myself that you all were the problem. He made me believe that family loyalty meant choosing him over you." The evidence uncovered during the federal investigation revealed the true scope of Trevor's criminal enterprise. Over a dozen women across 6 states had been victimized with total financial losses exceeding $2 million. His family's businesses were fronts for money laundering operations. The wedding venue incident had not been an isolated moment of anger. It had been a calculated attempt to intimidate and control. Trevor's trial became a media sensation with our story, serving as the centerpiece of a larger conversation about financial abuse and predatory relationship patterns. The viral video that had started everything was now evidence in a federal courtroom, but its meaning had completely transformed from a simple wedding disaster to documentation of organized criminal behavior. The sentencing was everything we could have hoped for. Trevor received 15 years in federal prison for racketeering, wire fraud, and identity theft. His co-conspirators, including several family members, received sentences ranging from probation to 8 years. The judge specifically referenced the wedding video in her sentencing statement, noting that Trevor's public humiliation of my mother demonstrated his contempt for the victims of his crimes. "Your actions that day revealed your true character," Judge Patricia Williams told Trevor during sentencing. "You believed you could intimidate and silence anyone who threatened your criminal enterprise, including a woman whose only crime was trying to protect her daughter." The civil litigation was equally satisfying. Trevor's assets, including properties purchased with stolen money, were seized and used to compensate his victims. Meredith was able to recover most of her financial losses, though rebuilding her credit and emotional well-being would take years. The personal healing process was slower, but ultimately more meaningful than the legal victories. Family therapy sessions helped us understand how Trevor had systematically manipulated Meredith and exploited the normal dynamics of family relationships. Dr. Foster continued working with us to recognize warning signs and develop healthier communication patterns. Meredith moved back in with Mom and Dad temporarily while she rebuilt her life. The experience had changed all of us, but it had also revealed the strength of our family bonds. We had learned that love sometimes means fighting for people even when they push you away, and that justice is worth pursuing even when the odds seem impossible. Our alliance network evolved into something beautiful and lasting. Sarah Rebecca, Dr. Foster, and the other women who had been exploited by Trevor formed a support group that continues to help victims of similar crimes. Maria's domestic violence organization received national recognition for their innovative approach to financial abuse cases. The viral video that started this nightmare now serves a different purpose entirely. It is used in training programs for law enforcement social workers and domestic violence advocates as an example of how public attention can be leveraged to expose systematic abuse and protect victims. Most importantly, Meredith and I rebuilt our relationship stronger than it had ever been. We learned to communicate more openly, to trust each other even when circumstances seem confusing, and to recognize that family loyalty means protecting each other from harm, not enabling destructive behavior. The wedding that excluded me ultimately became the catalyst for exposing a criminal network and saving multiple women from financial and emotional destruction. Sometimes the most painful betrayals lead to the most meaningful victories. Looking back, I realized that not being invited to that wedding was probably the best thing that could have happened to our family. If I had been there, I might have intervened in the moment and prevented the video from being taken. Without that evidence, Trevor might have continued his criminal operation indefinitely, victimizing more women and destroying more families. As I finish telling you this story, I want to ask, have you ever experienced a situation where standing up for family meant going against family? Have you seen justice served in unexpected ways? Share your own family drama stories in the comments. I read every single one and respond when I can. If this revenge story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with anyone who needs to hear that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best outcomes. Subscribe for more true stories about family justice and unexpected karma, because I have plenty more where this came from. Thank you for listening to my family's journey from wedding exclusion to federal courtroom victory. Remember that toxic people always reveal their true nature eventually, and family means protecting each other even when it gets complicated. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting justice run its course, while building something beautiful with the people who truly love you.